Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new year of the Day After podcast. My name's John, and I'm here with my co-host and wife, Haley.
Hello.
Now we are starting this year off with a little bit of an epilogue to a series we did last year. Last year we watched all of Pixar's films and shorts and talked about them at length in a sub-series called Pixar Sunday. Because of the coronavirus, among other issues, we did not have an opportunity to go catch 2020's Soul in theaters, directed by Pete Docter. If you are keeping track, Pete Docter is the man responsible for a lot of very popular Pixar films, including Monsters Incorporated, Up, and very noticeably Inside Out.
Yes. Yeah, and you definitely see Inside Out in this movie.
This is the movie that sent us over the edge to get a Disney Plus subscription. For a long time, we were considering getting one. We thought maybe back when it was coming out in November, we might be able to stretch our Pixar series to come and make it, but then the coronavirus didn't improve. They said, no, we'll put it on Disney Plus, and I'm kind of glad I got a subscription. This is really good.
Yeah, it is. And we got it for other things.
We did get it for other things, but that's enough about the Disney and their marketing. We've now that we've made a purpose of refreshing every Pixar film that we've seen, it's very easy to touch base with a lot of to make comparisons among other Pixar films, and you see a lot of names come up. Pete Docter is maybe Monsters Inc. notwithstanding, because that was a lower, an earlier venture. You definitely feel Pete Docter wanting to tackle more surreal and emotionally centered films.
Yeah, if you watched our Pixar Sunday series of podcasts, you notice I didn't shit on Inside Out, but I tend to be pretty critical of Inside Out. I don't like it near as much as other people do. But this is the right way to do surreal.
It's a really good take on Pete Docter's I guess his evolving tenure at Pixar, because he made Up, and Up did really well, and they were really impressed with such an emotional story that he told. And he said, do you want to do another thing, another more abstract thing? And then he made Inside Out, and Inside Out did very, very well. It's a huge favorite, especially among fans of the production company. And this is balls to the walls abstract. It's not afraid to allow you to get lost or to experiment with weird thoughts.
Yeah, but at the same time, it has a very firm grounding in reality, and it doesn't feel the need to jump off into a random odyssey like Inside Out did. This movie kind of exists in two worlds. You have the actual real world, with Joey and what he's doing, and then you have the spiritual world where he meets 22 and all of that stuff.
Yeah, Jamie Foxx plays Joe Gardner, a middle school part-time turned full-time music teacher. And I thought this might have been a teaching music movie or a music movie. It's definitely a music movie, but they use that as a tool to do other things. See Whiplash, which is a different toned movie, but a very similar thought.
Yeah, and I was telling John right as it ended, I was like, I'm so glad this wasn't every other jazz movie or every other music movie. With a lot of these, especially with Disney, you get these characters doing their passion, and you learn that the passion is the greatest thing on earth, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's art, whatever they're doing, that is the most important thing, and we just make a movie about how that is the most important thing. This is Jamie Foxx's character learning that is not the case.
Yeah, I did noticing
Which I really like.
Okay, the runtime, number one, very good 3-act structure. You point that out a lot.
Yes.
Very, very well done. The marketing, by the way, if you thought that you might know kind of where this is going, they left quite a bit of the movie out of the marketing. But if you're here, you're assumed spoilers. One thing at the top, when I was thinking about looking at the promotional materials of all the characters, one thing that I was worried about that I think they subverted, and I kind of want your opinion on this. Pixar has said, higher ups have said, we only want to do stories that require animation to tell. And when I saw promotional character models for Joe Gardner and Dorothea Williams and Curly, I got worried, because this looks like you could just tell a human story.
Yeah. Again, it kind of fools you. It shapes itself like like every other music movie where you have this guy and nobody understands his passions, but what he does is the greatest thing ever. Um, but then I noticed in like all the posters and the ads and stuff, there are these little blue blobs everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is that?
That is another interesting point, and this is maybe a nitpick, and I understand it's way more depth than we want to get into here. Somebody did casually get worried that it was going to do with something that the Princess and the Frog did also, where it is primarily a cast of color, but they spend the vast majority of the movie in a different body or a different
Yeah.
thing. And maybe this is so much of it takes place in the human world
Yeah.
that I don't think it was that big of a deal.
Yeah, I thought it was fine. I mean, what I like about this is that like in with something like Princess of the Frog, they're in New Orleans, and the setting is kind of the story here. Not that I don't love the story, all the way they animate New York is just gorgeous.
Very nice.
But like I don't know, it's not trying to be it's not trying to make any crazy provocative statements.
It's not attempting
of
to be.
inclusion.
It's not attempting to be tokenistic. No.
No.
No. Definitely. Jamie Foxx did. Who? I don't know how. It probably was a no-brainer. Jamie Foxx killed it.
Yes.
He did a very good job. And some people will say, "Well, voice acting's not that hard." Jamie, you did a great job, especially when you have to act as the cat. If you're here, welcome to spoiler territory. This movie does not. It does the Freaky Friday bit, which is one of my favorites. Other people that show up on the channel have mixed opinions, but
it does it with purpose, which
it does it with a purpose. So this is a great time to talk about 22. 22 is voiced by Tina Fey.
Yes.
A soul who is not ready to not ready to die. This is really unique. They're not ready to live.
Yes, she's come into contact with hundreds of other mentors, famous people from history, who have tried to ignite the spark, and every new soul needs a spark that encourages them to go live. And she's being a normal angsty teenager and doesn't want to do that.
She's content just to dick around, and that is they were gonna butt heads, and I understand that they will, in normal Disney fashion, they're gonna teach each other. They're each gonna enrich each other's lives by butting heads like this.
Yeah. But I was really worried then that it was just he's gonna find out teaching is the best thing ever.
I was also very worried. I was
like, oh, come on, movie, you're better than that.
Oh, I was so worried. I did appreciate that they weren't dumping on teachers the whole movie.
Yes, they also weren't dumping on musicians or like the mom character who doesn't believe in it. But no, this movie encourages its characters and you to find the simple joys and just the things you do every day. And if you like music, that's fine. But there's you can find joy in just about everything you do and every little nuance of life.
This movie also likes to tackle really, really abstract ideas like the zone. If you listen to people like Barry Kramer or other people that have done it with more scientific tact, the zone is when they actually say this line out loud. It is the borderline between the like physical and the emotional. That
physical and spiritual. Yeah,
halfway point where you feel like you're transcendent. Yeah. And to just describe a transcendent experience in a kids movie is like really adult.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, but at the same time, kids are smart enough to get it. They know what that means and what that feels like.
And it's immediately obvious between him playing music and the sign spinner, voiced by I think Graham Norton. But at the same time, they don't say that this is a specifically a great place to be. They also talk about the negative points of obsession.
Yes, and the lost souls, and how when you're in the zone so much you forget to live. That's when you become this creepy. Yeah, it is. And
the creepiness is we'll get to the art style in just a little bit. Well, go ahead.
And since we are in spoiler territory, 22 does become a lost soul at the end of the movie. And this kind of crazy... They mentioned that one of the things that triggers lost souls is anxiety. And to see those negative voices in her head just constantly
the negative self-talk.
That was another thing I was surprised to see in a kids movie. But again, kids are smart and they understand that.
I really appreciate Pete. I mean, Monsters Inc. is whatever, but he has made like now 3 highly regarded, very smart movies. And I want to be of the opinion. Here's my hot take, and you can bounce if you want. I think the biggest problems with Up and the tiny problems with Inside Out is before Pete had proven himself, they wanted things that were a little more grounded. Like with Up, you had to have the talking bird and the dog and the kid to
Yeah,
tell these emotional stories. And with Inside Out, they were letting the reins off a little bit.
but this is still very grounded. In fact, I would argue this is far more grounded than Inside Out.
It is, yes, very much grounded. And I think Inside Out, with the groundedness that the studio wanted, it couldn't be the great, like, pantheon of Pixar movies that it wanted to be.
Right.
Um,
Speaking of abstract, if you're done.
yeah, I'm done.
Speaking of abstract things that terrify the shit out of me, I hate the Jerrys.
Guys, this
They're so goddamn scary.
Artistically, it's a very grounded movie. Artistically, two things I want to point out. I was like, this is a damn good soundtrack, and I found out Trent Reznor and Atticus Finch, or Atticus, shut up,
Finch.
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did an original score for this. Like, no wonder it sounds amazing. After that, that's the audio of it. The visual,
and the audio is cool because they play jazz when they're in the human world only,
and they play this Vangelis synth when they're in the before time. That's amazing. But the visuals here are they are not afraid to get weird.
Yes.
Every person of authority in The Great Before is somebody called Jerry or Terry, depending.
Well, Terry is the counter, and Jerry is everything else.
Oh yeah.
And Jerry is a very existential concept that takes care of the souls from before.
And every character in that, every piece of authority is drawn with a single line that moves through space.
Yeah, it's this weird ass Picasso-like insanity that just unsettles me in the weirdest way.
God, the idea of being able to pull portals out of nowhere.
Yes.
Or the monochromatic blue with gentle purples every time he falls back down,
and
trying to get to Earth.
Shape yourself into a bus and have the kids go to their different personality stations.
Or even just the idea of, like, we have to get Terry out of the plot for a while. He's like, I'm gonna go find you manually. Cut to this and I hope people are gonna know what I'm talking about. That scene from Bruce Almighty where he, like, pulls out the filing cabinet and it's insanely long.
Yes.
That's really cool. It's him in a warehouse full of filing cabinets manually going through it.
Every single name to figure out which one got lost.
And if you think about this movie too hard, it's gonna cause a kid to have an existential crisis. If I were born in 2003, this movie would give me an existential crisis.
But Jerry does have one of the best lines in the movie, where it's near the end where Joey's asking, like, well, you know, that's my purpose is piano, that was my spark. And he's like, no, a spark is not your purpose. What? A spark is inspiration. A spark is encouragement. It's something to get you excited, but that doesn't mean that's what you were born to do. Nobody's born to do anything.
And that is no more better exemplified than
the barber.
There are a lot of good scenes in this movie, but at the time, it was the best scene in the movie so far. He has to, after a bit of a hair mishap, he does have to go get ready for his gig at the Half Note, and he runs into a black, like a community barber shop.
Yes.
Run by, I really feel terrible. His name's Eugene the Barber or something.
I don't know.
It doesn't matter. He's really good friends with this guy who he runs a family barber shop, and he's like, I need to fix you.
Yes.
But by this point, he's, the body swapping thing is in the way, and it allows this person who has never lived to talk ad nauseum about everything that she sees and wants to talk about. Yeah. And after they're about to leave, the barber comes back and is like, hey, I'm really glad that you came in. I'm really glad you asked me about the fact that I didn't always want to be a barber. Yeah. It's like, but what? How come I never knew about that? Well, you never asked. You're always too busy about talking about jazz.
Yeah, that's all you ever talked about was jazz. And going back to that lost soul thing, I like this idea that you can become so passionate that it's an unhealthy obsession.
Yes. This movie doesn't want to take a normative claim about anything.
No. Which again, I really, really like. Very minor complaint. I get it's a kids movie and you gotta have some funny quirky stuff. All the stuff with the cat, I'm very whatever about.
Maybe elaborate just a tiny bit.
So there's a lot of, like, filler scenes where they're like, oh my gosh, I'm a cat. I don't know how my legs work. And, like, the shaving scene where he gets he gets that thing because he's a cat. He doesn't have fucking thumbs.
Yeah.
And it's filler between those really deep emotional moments, and I
think
get why they're there.
it didn't quite bother me. There's one thing I was worried might bother me, and it stopped right on the edge of starting to bother me. Are these very quick Family Guy style cutaways of 22 having past historical figures as mentors?
Yeah.
Um,
And that's only like briefly mentioned. They never linger on it too long.
for
Which
like
is nice.
one-off gags about Abraham Lincoln, Muhammad Ali, among others.
Yeah.
And that's so wild. You would think that it would be from a better movie wouldn't do that, but I don't think it gets super in the way.
Yeah, and like with the cat stuff, I get the slapstick, haha, silly things. It's there for the kids, and we have to have lower moments to make the emotional ones hit better.
Definitely,
Just like I don't know, it's a talking cat. Whatever.
That's pacing. It's actually not terrible. I'm gonna use my final thought if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
To elaborate on a point that I think is. I hate to dump on another Pixar movie by saying that this one is just that but cleaner. One of our big complaints about Ratatouille was that it was a great movie about art and creation and passion, muddled with a lot of other plot points that really get in the way and fat the movie out and drag the movie a little bit down. This is a considerably cleaner attempt at similar motifs. It doesn't pull that down. It's much cleaner, much tidier visually and thematically. And I really appreciate that, so I had a really good time.
Yeah, and I'm liking this trend that I started seeing with Onward, where I think Pixar, number one, is seeing its own flaws, but it's also looking around at movies today and seeing just how fat they are. I mean, good God, why does Transformers have a 3 hour runtime?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? But that's neither here nor there. Again, as I said at the beginning, I like that this isn't every other jazz movie. I like that. I really, really appreciate it when a movie can say something that I feel is truly unique and that not a lot of movies have said before. And it is kind of surprising because you think you know where it's going and it kind of steers you away. So I like this idea that you can have passions, that's fine, but don't forget to live while you're down here.
Really refreshing. I'm definitely worth the subscription we paid. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us on the first episode of 2021. We got a lot of interesting things to show you, including another large project we have coming up starting next week. But that's been fun. Thank you for joining us on 2020's Soul.
Yes.
We look forward to having them back in several years when the Earth has calmed down for Luca, whenever it comes out.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.